Om Shri Sai Ram. With utmost humility and love, I offer myself at the lotus feet of our most beloved Swami. And I'm extremely grateful to him for having given me this opportunity to share his glory with all of you. My loving Sai Rams to all of you here. The rather thin crowd probably is due to not a so friendly budget and then the pounding that the Indian bowlers are getting at the hands of the friendly neighborhood batsmen. Nevertheless, a Sai Satsang is a great experience. It's a great moment. It's a great blessing. We are coming to the close of the Srikhara Nama Samvatsara, and very soon we'll be getting into the Nandana Nama Samvatsara. The last 1 year has been quite painful for most of us. These were trying and turbulent times. This was a time when the one who is much dear to each one of us than ourselves chose to leave the mortal coil. In the midst of all this that happened in the last 1 year, there was, I think, one silver lining, and that silver lining is this event called Samarpan, which was taken up as an initiative by the students. Samarpan, as it means, is an offering of our moments spent with the Lord. I feel extremely humbled and privileged to be standing here in front of all of you, especially when Brother Vijay Sai, who is not here I think today, he called me last week and said, will you talk on the 18th? And the first thought which struck me was, why me? Looking at the speaker list that spoke from this hallowed land over the last 10 months, I am but a small fry. Nevertheless, this is truly a blessing of the Lord. I remember the last time I spoke in this hall was on the 27th of May 2006. And that was right here when Swami was seated on his throne. And I clearly remember, just before I started the talk, I went to Swami and said, can I intersperse in between in Kannada also? Is that okay? Is that fine? I said, Swami, ಏನadre ತಪ್ಪಾದರೆ ಕ್ಷಮಿಸ್ಬಿಡಿ. ಮಾತಾಡುವಾಗ ಏನಾದರೆ ತಪ್ಪಾದರೆ ಕ್ಷಮಿಸ್ಬಿಡಿ. Please forgive me if there is a mistake that I make during my talk. And Swami instantly said, ಏನು ತಪ್ಪಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. And then the talk started and it went on and at the end of it, when I again went back to thank Swami, he said, Yen sir, yaar matadidru, nana, Nina. And during the talk, I had to mention a particular incident where I said, after my parents left me in this large, beautiful, wonderful, yet harsh world, Swami stepped in and took control of my life, and I was narrating a number of incidents. And when Swami was retiring back behind, when he was getting into the chair, into the car, the chair was getting into the car, he had tears in his eyes, and he said, why do you say there is no one for you when I am there for you? I have told this to you so many times that I am there for you. Why do you always feel there is no one for you? Yen tande tayi illa andre yenayitu, nanilva? These words which came from him on that day, on the evening of that 27th of May 2006, was not the first time it happened. This is something which he has been reminding me time and again, time and again, and time and again. And I am probably just a figurehead in this whole conversation. I think this assurance is something which goes out to the whole world, that I am there for all of you. Taking a cue from this sentence, I am there for you, which is the topic that has been given to me today, I would like to take you all back in this beautiful divine saga, this divine romance that has been shared with the Lord of our times. We need to go back in time to, I think, 1980-81, when I was in the 6th or 7th standard, and that was my first real physical encounter in this life with Swami. I used to enjoy playing cricket. Anything to skip a class and go away to play cricket. And my mother was trying her best to ensure that I study. She was ardently devoted to Bhagwan. There was a very unique blessing that she had wherever she would be. I know this for a fact. Swami would come and talk to her. Something he would do with her every single darshan. She could be in the 10th row, she could be in the 20th row, she could be standing far away. He will somehow spot her and go to her. And she was crazily devoted to him. She was the only person from the family who used to go again and again to have his darshan, sometimes even tell a lie at home. I am going out. And the fact was, she would have gone and quickly had a darshan of Bhagwan and come back. And one fine morning she tells me, today I will take you to see God. And she also promised and said, you then don't need to attend school in the afternoon. You can come away after lunch. To be honest to all of you, the assurance of being able to see God was not as attractive as the chance to skip school for that half a day. So promptly I returned back from school, and that afternoon we went to this devotee's house, who was, I think, a member of the Central Trust at that time, Mr. K.R. Prasad. My parents had been invited to his home. Bhagwan was visiting their house that day. It was in Palace Orchards, if I remember. And we reached a little late. So we were not able to get in, and just as we reached, Bhagwan had finished his darshan and his the bhajans in the house, and he was, I think, ready to accept Arati. So we were asked to stand right at the entrance door. The moment Arati got over, Swami came out, and I got to know that we had come to see Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, because there is a small background to this. My grandmother, my mother's mother, had warned me that if your mother ever takes you to see Sai Baba, don't go and look into his eyes. He will mesmerize you and he will hypnotize you. Don't ever look into his eyes. And she had literally scared me on this. Imagine, later on times came where to get a glimpse of that beautiful drishti, we would go any distance. And so when I reached there and I realized that it was Swami that we had come to see, the immediate thought that went to my mind was, I should not look into his eyes. In fact, I should do everything possible to ensure that I don't have a direct encounter with him. So I went and hid behind my mother. And Swami, the moment he spotted my mother, he came straight to her. In Samacharama started off. And then she immediately pulled me to the front. And she started off, you know, Ododela, he doesn't study at all, he's always playing cricket, this, that, went on and on and on. And Swami, in a whiff, he materialized a lot of vibhuti. He put it on my head and he rubbed it. And he said, you don't worry about him, I will take care of him. This was an assurance he gave my mother. He's lived up to his word. I can vouch for it. I probably didn't realize the massive significance of what he had done. It was an encounter with divinity. It was a moment where the Lord chose to touch His creation. It was a moment which was defining in my life, but I didn't realize it then. I actually shrugged off. Even as he was rubbing the vibhuti, I remember I shrugged off. I came back home. I had a fight with my mother. I said, "Why did you have to take me there? My grandmother kept saying, don't go to see Sai Baba, and you never told me the truth." And it went on and on and on. The next few years in my life went on the lap of all the love and care that an earthly mother gives her child. Time went by. Time was well spent. I remember I completing my 10th standard and then the graduation, finished my college, and then tragedy struck when suddenly, out of the blue, my mother passed away. I just finished my graduation and she passed away. And after she passed away, there was a lot of sadness within. At the same time, there was a lot of anger. The anger was actually directed at our loving Lord. I always felt when she was so devoted to you, when she was so attached to you, why did you have to take her away so soon? And this feeling kept increasing within me. When one day my sister, she said, "Let us go to see Sai Baba. He has come to Whitefield. Let's have his darshan." She would frequent the Shirdi Sai Baba temple, which is in Cambridge layout, on the eastern side of Bangalore. There was a devotee lady there, who I think is the sister of our warden. The lady wanted to come to have darshan of Bhagwan here, and my sister promised her that we will take you, and she told me, "You can come," and the incentive she gave me was, "You can drive the car," because I had just got a driving license. So that incentive really worked. I said, "Okay, I get a chance to drive the car, so let me use this opportunity and go." So I brought them all to Brindavan, and the Sai Ram shed was there. This hall was not there. We had parked the car outside, and these three ladies got down from the car and walked in for darshan. I chose to be seated in the car because I said, "I will not go in to have his darshan. He took away my mother from me, I will not go." So I continued to sit in the car. And then suddenly I looked back and found there was a purse or some bag which was left behind. I thought one of the ladies must have left it and probably they need it inside. So I took that bag and came into the ashram to hand it over to the lady. And the moment I came in, a Sevadal ushered me and said, come on, Sai Ram, you cannot go and sit on the lady's side and you can't go that side, you sit down." So he took me and made me sit. And that happened to me at the far end, where the sand was at that time. The shed was on that corner, and Swami would come walking from here. This was all open area. And towards the end of where the last lines ended, he made me sit there under the sun. And we were waiting for Bhagwan to come out. And from within, there was anger. There were mixed feelings. I said, "Why did you have to take my mother away? Why? Anyway, now you are coming out, I will have it out with you." And Swami so beautifully and gracefully glided himself towards the Sai Ram shed. And as he came very close to me, I suddenly got up, went on my knees, and I said, "My mother died." And Swami instantly said, "But I am there for you." And the timing of his saying that was as if he expected that statement from me. The moment I said, "My mother died," he said, "But I am there for you." It happened as if it was all pre-planned. And he goes across, there was a lady sitting with some rose petals, flowers to be offered. He takes a handful of that, he comes and puts it on me. And then he walks away as if nothing happened. He went, sat for his bhajan, and he returned back. This, brothers and sisters, was the big change. I don't know what has happened to me after that particular conversation, after that particular incident with Bhagwan. Life changed instantly from that very moment. I fell, so to speak, crazily in love with him. I became mad about him. I got obsessed. For me, the whole life, the world was just Swami, Swami, and Swami alone. There was nothing else at all. Everything changed after that one single incident. It was only him. After that darshan, a few incidents happened through which he established himself in my life. I remember soon after this, I got introduced to a samiti which is in Indiranagar. This is called Sai Darshan. And I was told that Swami would visit this place every year whenever he came to Brindavan. And that year, Swami was supposed to visit us in the month of June. I was given the job of taking care of the garden and ensuring the flower pots are kept right outside Bhagwan's room on the first floor. Swami came and then he went upstairs. He was inside his room, and at that time one of the ladies said, the flower pot needs to be kept outside. Why have you not done it? So they said, since Swami is inside the room, you can now go and keep it outside. So I carried the pot and went up, and just when I was about to keep it right there, the door opens, and guess who comes out? The Lord himself. He comes out, he looks at me and says, hey, what is your name? So I went and told him my name, and then immediately he took his hand and 3 times he hit on the back. 3 times. And this was another incident which created a big change. It was like 3 clear assurances. I'm there, I am there, I am there. It ended with that. I went down, Swami finished his visit in the mandir, he carried on. The next few days I kept coming for darshan here, beautiful days. This hall, incidentally, has given humanity a chance to feast on that form. It gave us all an opportunity to touch that form. It gave us an opportunity to talk to that form. His drishti, his darshan, sparshan and sambhashan happened in this very place. Those were beautiful days. I spent my time coming here, enjoying his darshan and going back. And one fine day, he chose to again surprise me with a beautiful presence, a beautiful incident where he again took the level of his involvement in my life to the next stage. I used to go to a friend of mine near C.V. Raman Nagar to learn mathematics. Being a commerce and accounting guy, I was not really exposed to maths, and we needed to be sharp in arithmetical skills even for chartered accountancy. So I would go to a certain devotee who was a close friend to learn maths. And one fine evening, when I was driving to his home, it was I think about 8 o'clock, Bemel is the renowned factory. Right behind the Bemel gate, there is a small cement road here, eastern Bangalore, and there is a bench. And a little further away from there is a railway crossing. 8 o'clock in the evening, I am driving on my bike and I am going on that road towards this friend's house. Just before the railway crossing, I think about 200 meters before the crossing, I suddenly hear a clear voice, shh, shh, as if to say, listen. And I turn around, and to my utter surprise, I see Bhagwan in his full pristine form, sitting on a bench, happily sitting on that bench, and he is swinging his legs because his feet were not touching the ground, and the full darshan of Swami on that chair. And I rubbed my eyes and said, is this real? And I threw the bike and went near, and I actually clasped the feet. And it was real. It was real Swami sitting on that bench. And then Swami immediately gets into a conversation as if nothing happened. He says, look at the moon. I said, yes, Swami. I was shivering. I don't know. There was absolutely no control over myself. He says, look at the moon. Now there is the moon. Tomorrow morning there will be the sun. The sun will come, the moon will come. The sun will come, the moon will come. Life is also like this, he said. Good times, bad times, good times, bad times. It will go on changing. But I am with you. And he was swinging his feet, his hands were on his lap, as if nothing happened. Calmly was seated, and I was perspiring. Looking back, I wonder why that kind of an emotion came. It was a most fascinating experience to see the Lord himself, out of the blue, seated on an obscure bench off a cement road behind Bemel factory on the eastern side of Bangalore on one insignificant night. He chose to come sit there to give darshan and to give an assurance that I am there. And after that, Swami gets up and he walks towards the railway crossing, and I watch him walk. And as he comes till the railway crossing, he just disappears. And I rub my eyes. This sounded like something in Amar Chitra Katha or one of those movies. I rubbed my eyes and I said, my God, was this real? What was this that happened? And I took the bike. I must have driven like a madman back to my house. I threw the bike outside. I go up to my room, and on all the pictures of Swami, there was vibhuti. Every single picture was full of vibhuti. And the next day itself, and that night I developed high fever, and I was not in control of myself at all. The next day, Swami sends Mr. K.R. Prasad home, and he comes to tell my father, Swami said, he gave a vision to your son, but ask him not to get worried. Where is he now? And I was outside. My father called me in, and I was shivering. And Mr. Prasad says, Swami has told us about the vision he gave you, but you need not worry. Just remain calm. And I was speechless. I didn't even know what to say. After 2 days, I come for darshan. Hey Gittu. I didn't know what to answer. I was dumb. I didn't even know those days how to respond, what to say. I just kept quiet. I clasped his feet and kept crying. This incident, he did, I think, to just prove a point that this was divinity that you are encountering. This is God himself, and I will go to any extent to tell you that I am there with you. This incident gave me a feeling of intense joy from within. It gave me a feeling of belongingness. It made me realize that the earthly mother is not there anymore, but I don't need to worry because I have him for me completely. Soon after that, in January 92, Swami, again we were sitting here, he comes in his darshan and he says, Bombay. So I said, I didn't understand. What did Bombay mean? I just kept seated. He was going around, came back. Tomorrow morning, Bombay. So I didn't realize what this was all about. And I kept quiet. After darshan was over, I went into Thrai to the other side. I remember Mr. Joga Rao and Mr. Srinivas and others were sitting there. I said, Sir, Swami said, Bombay, what does this mean? So they said, Swami is leaving for Mumbai tomorrow morning. That is all that we can tell you now. We can't tell you anything beyond this. And I felt Swami must probably have meant, you also come to Bombay. Just look at the kind of audacity in the expectation. A small fry. How could I have even imagined that the Lord will want me to travel with him to Mumbai? So I said, I don't think this is the right thought. But I said, let me still go to the airport. I'll pack my bags. I'll get ready to travel with Swami to Mumbai. And fortunately, at that time, I was in the closing stages of my chartered accountancy course. And I used to file income tax returns for all the Indian Airlines employees. So these chaps were very good pals with me. So at a short notice, I could get a seat. I could also manage to tell them that I want something, which is a seat which is located very close to where Swami was seated. Swami was in 7A, seat number 7A. 7B was Sir Radhakrishna. 7C was Sir Joga Rao. So I somehow muscled myself and got 7D. And the next morning, I land up at the airport. And because I'm pals with all these people, I get to go near the aircraft. And I'm standing there right at the foot of the flight of stairs. And Swami comes. The car door opens. He looks at me and says, "Oh, you have come." As if he didn't know at all. He had created all this, and then he makes you feel as if this was all incidental. "Oh, you have come." And then he came straight, and I said, "Swami, I am also coming with you to Bombay." "Come, come, come." He held the hand, and the entire flight of steps, he took me with him up, right up to the top. And then he goes in, "Where is your seat?" So I said, "Swami, that seat, 7D. "Ah, kutko." So sat down. And then the flight started, and it was a phenomenal journey from Bangalore to Mumbai. I just couldn't believe myself that I was actually traveling with the Lord in the same aircraft and sitting on the same row as he was. And every time I would turn and look, what is he doing? Now what is he doing? Now what is he doing? And in between, he was opening the Hindu newspaper and showing everybody the big advertisements put up there about the welcome Mumbai was giving to Swami. He passed on the paper to everybody. And then he had some fruit which he had got. He was cutting it and passing it on. Then the crew of the flight came. He posed for photographs with them. And then a lot of people started getting up, wanting to get pictures autographed by Swami. And Swami told me, "Hey, get up, crowd control madu." So I was standing between him and the rest. And I must confess here that there was a lot of ego which came in suddenly. Because ego, like Swami said, I never gave ego to you. You people got it on the way. So, on the journey from home to the airport and that flight of stairs up with him, I brought the sufficient quantity of ego with me. I was standing there, and each person would come and try to get the picture, and I would take it, give it, get it signed, give it back, with all that, the ego was pouring all out. And Swami kept looking and said, "Oh, Kutko." Because immediately he has to kill it. That is the mercy of this Lord. The moment you falter, the moment you start deviating, he will correct you instantly. There was no delay in it at all. Kutko. I immediately went and sat down. Then as the flight was about to land in Mumbai, I went up to Swami. Swami had mercifully given me 10 minutes time to talk about my mother's last days, and he said where she was now, and it was a very touching conversation with him. Towards the end, I said, "Swami, I am coming to Mumbai with you, but I have no place to stay in Bombay. So I will also be coming and staying with you only, isn't it, in Dharmakshetra?" He said, "Illa, illa." And he turned away. And I was taken aback. I said, "My God, where will I go now?" Because I had some 180 rupees or something in my pocket. And all the feeling in me was traveling with the Lord. Obviously, the Lord must have made all arrangements to stay with him. And here he very coolly says, "No, no." And then I said, "So where will I stay, Swami?" He says, "You go to Shirdi. You don't stay in Mumbai, you go immediately to Shirdi. All arrangements ನಾನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ," he said. So I said, "How could you do arrangements? You never told me about Shirdi. This is the first time you're telling me." Then he said, "In the airport, your uncle and aunt will come." I said, "But I have not told anybody that I am coming." "No, no, they are coming. Go and sit down." So you are left, because these are all tests to elevate a soul spiritually. The moment the Lord gives you a glimpse of divinity and then takes his feet back, takes one step backward, the craving gets intensified. When the craving gets intensified, the prayer gets intensified. That few moments before the flight landed, I must have prayed like mad. I must have prayed, what is happening? How do I go? What are the next few moments? I have been told Mumbai is a mad city, big city. People have absolutely no emotions. I'm sorry if there are anybody from Mumbai here. But I had all kinds of thoughts about Bombay. And I said, where will I go in that big world? So I just sat down and the flight landed. The car comes. Swami gets into the car and zips off. And I am watching. Oh, he's gone. And now what? Then I walk into the airport and surprise of surprises, my uncle and aunt are standing there. And I went to them and said, how come you people are here? I never called you all. They said, no, a friend of ours is coming from Ahmedabad. We have come to receive him, and how come you are here? So they were there, and I heaved a sigh of relief that there was someone known to me in sight in that big city. I went there, and then I told my aunt, I have to go to Shirdi, and she immediately arranged a bus ticket for me the same night. I went to Shirdi. The moment I landed, it was I think 3:30 or something in the morning, I reached there. A small boy comes and he takes complete control. I had not to do anything at all after I reached Shirdi. He comes, he says, there is a room arranged for you. He takes me to one room. Then he gets a puja thali organized. Then he says, you come with me. Those days, directly you could go to the Samadhi Mandir. He takes me there. He takes me to all the places. That next day in the afternoon, till I left Shirdi, he was my guardian, my everything. A small boy. And at the end of it, I had a fantastic time in Shirdi and had blissful darshan. Came back to Mumbai, and the heart was craving for Swami. I wanted to see him. I wanted to go to Dharmakshetra to know what is happening. And there was no news at all. People said, huge crowds. There is barricade put everywhere. My aunt said, I will try my best to get you in, but it is very difficult. And things went on like this for 2 days. No darshan of Swami, only hearing about him from people, reading about it in the newspaper. I chose to remain contented in my aunt's place. Third day, I got to know that Swami was returning back to Bangalore. I think it was the 24th of Jan 92, if I'm not mistaken, when he was planning to come back, or the 30th, something like that. 24th is when we traveled, and I think 30th he was returning, or something like that. When I got to know that he's returning back, my immediate thought was, let me try and see if I can get a seat next to him again on the way back. At least let me try to use something to get a seat again on the same row, somewhere close to him. So Mumbai, of course, I didn't know the people in the airlines. I went there, and they had booked seats in different computers. Nobody was willing to tell me which particular flight Bhagwan was taking back to Bangalore for security reasons. And the seats were also booked in different names. It was not Joga Rao, it was Rao Joga. It was not Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, it was Baba Sri Sathya Sai. It was something else for someone else. So when I was giving them a name, they said this name is not figuring in the system at all. So I got frustrated, and suddenly one person says, he is leaving tomorrow morning by so-and-so flight. And I told him I must have a seat on that flight. With Swami's grace, I got a seat on the flight, return journey also. The next morning, I reached the airport in Mumbai, and due to some reasons on the way, I got delayed. By the time I have reached the airport, the check-in had already started. So I couldn't get an opportunity to get the seat of my choice. So I was standing in the queue. 7A was Swami, again, 7B, 7C, 7D, 7E, 7F, 7G, all those seats were booked for him, for the whole troop. So the man in front of me got 7E. And I was poring over his shoulder to see what is on his boarding card. And I saw 7E. And the next was my turn. That man gave me 11. So I looked at it and I said, but I want something in that row 7. And this previous passenger was hearing. He had a horrific flight from Bangalore to Mumbai because he was on the same row while going. He's a non-devotee. Because of the crowd and the rush that was going to Swami, he didn't want to be on the same row where Swami was. So he said, is Sai Baba traveling again on this flight? The person at the counter said, yes. Then I don't want anything in row number 7. You give me something in the back. So I again got 7E, and I was seated, and Swami came. It was, I think, 6:45 in the morning when we departed from Mumbai. Swami entered the flight, He saw me, he called, and he said, "Why did you go to the mandir first? You should have gone to Dwarkamai." I said, "My God, that means he was actually keeping track and following every single movement in Shirdi. I told you that you should have gone to Dwarkamai." I said, "Swami, you never told. I told you." I said, "Swami, you only asked me to go to Shirdi. This is my first visit to Shirdi. How will I know where to go?" Then I realized the boy who was there kept telling me again and again, "First let's go to Dwarkamai. First let's go to Dwarkamai." And I was pushing him and telling him, "No, first the mandir, because when you come to a holy place, you must first go to the mandir." So I dragged this boy and took him to the Samadhi Mandir. And this chap was adamant, "No, Dwarkamai, Dwarkamai." Swami said, "How many times I told, you didn't listen." And then I realized that the Lord had chosen one more occasion to travel a distance, to actually be there and to show us the right path. He said, "All arrangements I have made." He lived up to his word. He was there to receive at the bus stand, take me through everything, get the room booked, get the darshan organized, everything he did. We, in our ignorance, didn't follow the directions of the Lord. Unless we submit ourselves and surrender ourselves completely to the will of the Lord, it becomes very difficult for the Lord also to sometimes work through our obstinacy. We must understand that every act, every word that has come from Him is bound to happen. I said, "Sorry, Swami, I'm very sorry." And then he said, "Here, Dharmakshetra Prasadam." So he gave laddu, then he gave some fruit, then he gave something. You know, with Swami, it is not one or two, it will keep coming. Once he starts, it will keep on. And he said, "Tinu." It was 6:45 in the morning, and laddu was there, something else was there, a fruit was there. Probably he knew this guy will have a fantastic appetite. So I started eating everything, finished. And the journey back ended to Bangalore. There was nothing really unique or significant which happened during the journey between Swami and me at a physical level. But one thing that happened during this trip was, I suddenly felt that he was time and again trying to choose occasions, trying to create a feeling clearly that you are mine. Somewhere I started feeling this love of his was engulfing me so intensely, steadily, that I started feeling a sense of belonging to him. I felt this body, this being, this life is only for him and for nothing else, and for no one else. This feeling was very steadily building up, and this trip was one other reminder that God will go to any extent to do anything for you. The Shirdi trip ended. We came back, lot of ego. I came back to our Samiti. You know, I went to Bombay with Swami. You know, I traveled with Swami. I meet anybody there. Yeah, recently Swami went to Bombay and he took me with him. Shirdi, he actually asked me to go to Shirdi. You don't know. My first trip to Shirdi, actually Swami himself sent me. Ego. Wherever I go, it was built up. It was coming all over. Swami decided to cut this. The next 2 years, he just cut off. He was reforming from within. There was no physical interaction at all. He would ignore, he would avoid completely. He was in a divine way present. At physical level, he made clear. In fact, there were occasions where I remember, if I'm seated at a particular place, he will ignore that entire line. He used to ignore the whole bunch of people near me. And so if people didn't want to have darshan, they could have chosen to sit next to me. It was that bad. It went on, and I used to cry. I used to wonder, what mistake have I done to be treated like this? And he would, the moment he spots me, he will turn the face. But little did I realize that all this was again done out of his infinite love. See, the mercy in the Lord is so great. Every act that he did and does and will continue to do will only be for our upliftment. I don't think a physical level ignorance, physically ignoring a devotee means that he is shrugging off a devotee or keeping him aside. I don't think that is the way to interpret it at all. Everything that he did was elevating us spiritually all the while. So the next 1.5, 2 years went in this intense craving for him. There was a room at home which I had made as my room with my Lord. And I had put Swami's pictures all over in that room. And there was a table, which was my study table. And I had my cot in the same room. And I used to spend all my time either doing my articleship or studying there or doing my prayer. Everything was in that room. And the way he would show his presence, Vibhuti would get covered in all the pictures. And so appropriately, on every examination day, there used to be a huge outburst of Vibhuti from the photos. And it was like ready prasadam available, so you go take Vibhuti and then go to write the exam. And I know, looking back, the only reason I can assure you this, for having done whatever little I did in my chartered accountancy and other professional exams, was only due to the grace through that Vibhuti. And Swami, in fact, mentioned this in 2007. One day he was on a trip. Whomever he was introducing me to, he said, Vinay Kumar, chartered accountant. He called somebody into the interview room. He said, Valli evaru telsa? Chartered accountant. So I said, this is becoming too much. So I said, Swami, I am nothing. You know what I am. Ellaratra ನೀವು ಹೋಗಿ, you are saying chartered accountant, what is this? ಆವತ್ತೇ ವಿಭೂತಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟೆ. ಆವತ್ತೇ ಪ್ರಸಾದಂ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಅದು ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ exam pass ಮಾಡಿದೆ. I said, when your prasadam was the reason for my passing, how can you go on introducing me like this? In fact, that room became so special. In 2010, December, I remember Swami had asked us to get an album made of the house. And he called one of our senior trustees in Karnataka Trust, Mr. Gangadhar Shetty Garu. He asked him to hold the album and he asked me to turn the leaves, the pages. He was seeing every room of the house. And when it came to this particular room, Swami says, "Ee room gottalla, ee room alle nanu vibhuti ella kottiddu. Ee room interview room," he said. So I said, "Swami, what is this?" He said, "All the furniture you remove from that room. That room should become the interview room. Whenever I come, I'll grant interview in that room." So everything was connected. Everything had a purpose. Everything doesn't happen just due to coincidence. It is a beautiful, deliberate, divine design. It has all got a purpose behind it. These incidents where he, after my mother passed away, steadily to start doing this and drawing me closer and closer and closer and closer, and giving this reassurance time and again, I am there, reminding me through action, through words, gave me that feeling that I am his and he is mine. There is no doubt about this. That got very firmly entrenched with it. The years that followed after that had a few ups, a few downs. There are so many things that happened. For lack of time, I probably will not be able to go through all that, but I will share with you all a few beautiful incidents of his immense love, that pure, pristine love of the Lord, which only he could have given and nobody else could have given. I want to share a few of those incidents.